Welcome to a special episode of the podcast known as Blending the Family. This is Parenting Tip Tuesday. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I want to make this one extremely special because the information that I'm going to share with you is coming out of my new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. If you are a regular listener of this podcast, you know I have a new book out, and you can pre-order it, pre-sale at mydadsadvicebook.com. That's mydadsadvicebook.com. I've read the backstory from the book, and I've read chapter 1 from the book. So now we're going to do... after every chapter of the book, I put questions in, okay? So for this episode, I am going to read the questions to you, maybe give you a little more context, and I hope you'll take these questions and share them, use them in your own family, okay? So here we go. Here's question number 1 from chapter 1. How would you have handled the breakup of your marriage differently? Were people shocked that the marriage ended? I'm going to start with that second part. Were people shocked that the marriage ended? Well, obviously, I was shocked that the marriage ended, but another person that was shocked that the marriage ended was my former spouse and I. We were actually going through marriage counseling, couples counseling, and the therapist, I really liked her. She was really good, and even after the divorce, I kept going back to her for my own therapy. And one of the first sessions after the divorce, she said to me, "I was shocked that you guys were getting divorced." And I'm like, that makes 2 of us apparently. How would you have handled the breakup of your marriage differently? I don't know, other than I would say the parenting agreement. I received the parenting agreement right away and did not really go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I really should have had a attorney look at it before I signed it. So that's probably how I would have handled the breakup of the marriage differently in that aspect. Question number 2 is, how did the divorce affect your children, and what ways are you supporting them emotionally? How did the divorce affect your children? Well, number 1, I wish I was there to let our son know that mom and dad just need to have separate houses. And I say, how did the divorce affect? That's a great question. And I wrote it. Let me go back to that. In what ways are you supporting them emotionally? So for me, it's always been staying in contact with the boy, and I remember people would talk about getting kids cell phones at too early of an age. I think it's a good tool to help stay in contact with our kids. And for me, it was about, texting, if I can speak, calling on a regular basis. In my first book, 25 Tips for Divorced Dads, I talked about sending Connor postcards from wherever I traveled for work. And for me, that's how I was able to stay connected with him. Today, he is a young man, and one of the things I've brought up to him on a couple occasions is just asking him, how are we? how can I as a dad help improve things, relationship. Just I try to let them know that there is a safe place with me, that we can talk about anything and everything. And so, how did the divorce affect your children? I went through it myself, and so I could see at times where Connor might be struggling and might need some time alone, or just time together. So I look at divorce as coming from a child, being me, that I lived through that experience, and I was able to help as best I can navigate it with Connor. All right, question number 3. What new life lessons not only have you learned, and what have you taught your children? Man, I wrote some great questions. Let's see, what new life lessons not only have you learned, what have you taught your children? Ooh, oh my gosh. What new life lessons? Life lessons. I guess for coming from the aspect of a man, that it's okay to show your feelings. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have struggles. And I wanted to, as a dad, as a man, to let Connor know that Dad's struggling. Dad is having, those days where he's just not as I like to call it occasionally my fog. So the fog occasionally rolls in. Fog correlates to depression, and so there are times where I had to suck it up at times. But as far as life lessons, I think for me, and again, sending postcards, to me, that's a life lesson of just, we don't write enough. I really don't think we write enough. And this was a opportunity for me to stay connected with Connor, because at the time he was first learning how to read. And so this was my, as I like to jokingly call, my little Jedi mind trick to maybe help him read, is by sending him postcards. What new life lessons now have you learned, and what have you taught your children? I think the biggest takeaway of this, and even with my 2 bonus girls, is the fact that let's be open and honest. Let's have dialogue. Let's have these conversations. And so one of the things I did with one of the girls, Becca, was and we haven't done it in a while, and I'm hoping the following week, or the week that this comes out, I should say, that her and I can go and have dinner like we used to. We used to have occasional dinners, just her and I. We'd go wherever she wanted, and we didn't have to talk. We could talk. It was just about building our relationship, and it was about just being present. And I think that's probably the biggest thing after reading this question is, be present in your kids' lives. I wrote about this a long, long time ago, that one of my biggest regrets is right after my divorce, the very first Christmas, I just could not handle being around Connor, because I felt like such a failure as a dad to him. And I had to escape. I guess that's the best word. And I spent that Christmas away from him. So that's That's one of the things that really bothers me, even to this day. All right, next question. Question number 4. Is there a constant memory that the children talk about? The one of the constant memories Connor's brought up with me is and it was one of those rare occasions where my former spouse and I actually had a shouting match, and we were actually in our the front of the house is where the home office was, and we had the doors closed, but he still heard that, and it was just to put it the best way I can. It was just two adults just letting off steam. What steps helped you with your own grievance process? I like this question, and again, I'm answering this as if somebody gave this to me, so I didn't look at these questions at all. So, what steps helped you with your own grievance process? Well, one of the things I did was I didn't date, right away. I didn't want to just find somebody. I wanted to build my relationship with Connor first. But one of the things I remember listening to Zig Ziglar years and years ago, and if you don't know who that is, he is one of the forefounders of motivation, positive motivation, motivational speakers. But Zig Ziglar talked about setting a time when you're down. And I really wish I had taken that advice to heart, because it took me, I would say, at least 4, 5, 6 months of grieving. And I think one of the things I've read a long time ago is that women, after divorce, get back on the saddle quicker than men. We men tend to take longer in the grieving process. So one of the things I just mentioned, I wanted to just build my relationship with Connor. I wanted to, make sure that I could be as present physically and emotionally as possible, especially, obviously not living in the same household anymore. Other things I did were, during that time, I wrote. I wrote a lot. So I wrote a book, Why Not You, Why Not Me? It's an ebook you can find on Amazon. I'm not even going to put in the link. But I just started writing. And at the time of my divorce, I was traveling on Sundays. I'd have to go from the Denver airport to LaGuardia airport every Sunday, and I would just write. And those, 3.5 hour trip. And that, for me, was so cathartic, and that was part of my grieving process. All right. So, last question, and this is going to be a theme throughout the book. This is how, again, I put these questions after each chapter, but this next question is going to be the same last question after every chapter, because I want for you on a daily basis to have positivity. And I put in the book, I even talk about, I understand that every day is not unicorns pooping Skittles. I get it. Here's the last question, question number 5, and that is, what was a win for you today? How will you continue each day with a daily win? Divorce is tough, okay? Divorce is one of those things that you have with you on a regular basis, okay? I want people to understand that every single day, no matter what it is, there's a win out there. So what was my win for today? So my win for today was actually the day I'm recording this. I was able to put up a new podcast episode. And to me, that's a win, because I try to put out a new episode every single week. I love doing it. And if I could, I would do it full time. I love bringing on guests to share their knowledge with an audience. So for me, that was today's win. So what was your win for today? How will you continue each day with a daily win? One of the things that I was gifted this past Christmas of 2020 was a book by Ryan Holiday called The Daily Stoic. And each day you just read a small chapter, a small paragraph. And this is how I have to start my day, reading. I've talked about this, I've written about this, because this is what a lot of people I want to emulate, people that are very successful. And I'm not just talking financially, I'm just talking people I respect, writers, podcasters, people that are creative. And the thing is, you need to bookend your day. And what I mean by that is, for me, I have to start my day reading the Daily Stoic. The end of the day, I have other books that I'm reading. And so I need to bookend my day by reading. So I start my day and end my day. Because in between the bookends, you're going to have chaos. So for me, for example, I still have a day job. So I like to start my day on a positive note, reading something positive, reading something that I enjoy, ending my day with positivity, reading something I enjoy. That's the small wins for me. If I can start my day and end my day reading or even writing, that's a small win. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I love podcasting. I love sharing guests with you. And this book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m., is a book that I know is going to help so many people. I wrote the book, and if you want to go back and listen to the backstory, but I'm just going to touch the backstory a little bit, and that is, I wrote the book for moms, to let moms know that we former spouses, we exes, might not be the greatest ex-husbands, but we truly care about our kids. We truly care about them on a daily basis. And I wanted to showcase not just other dads throughout the book, but I wanted to showcase that when it comes to co-parenting, we are in this together. Okay? We are in this together. So there you go. And I will end this podcast the way I normally end any podcast, and that is, as Terry Crews would say, your success is my success.